Hello, my name is Jiso and I'm reading Master Dōgen's Shōbōgenzō. And this is chapter 91, Yui-Butsu-yo-Butsu, Buddhas alone together with Buddhas. Yui means only or solely, Butsu means Buddha or Buddhas, and Yo means and or together with. So Yui-Butsu-yo-Butsu means Buddhas alone together with Buddhas. Yui-Butsu-yo-Butsu is a phrase from a well-known quotation from the Lotus Sutra. The full quotation is, Buddhas alone, together with Buddhas, are directly able to perfectly realize that all dharmas are real form. In this chapter, Master Dōgen explains what Buddhas are. The Buddha Dharma cannot be known by people. For this reason, since ancient times, no common man has realized the Buddha Dharma, and no one in the two vehicles has mastered the Buddha Dharma. Because it is realized only by Buddhas, we say that Buddhas alone, together with Buddhas, are directly able to perfectly realize it. When we perfectly realize it, while still as we are, we would never have thought previously that realization would be like this. Even though we had imagined it, it is not a realization that is compatible with that imagining. Realization itself is nothing like we imagined. That being so, to imagine it beforehand is not useful. When we have attained realization, we do not know what the reasons were for our being now in the state of realization. Let us reflect on this. To have thought prior to realization that it will be like this or like that was not useful for realization. That it was different from how we had supposed it to be in all our miscellaneous prior thoughts does not mean that our thinking, being very bad, had no power in it. Even the thinking of the time was realization itself, but because we were then directing it the wrong way round, we thought and said that it was powerless. Whenever we feel that we are useless, there is something that we should know, namely that we are afraid of becoming small. Footnote says, because we're worried about becoming small, we try to become better instead of realizing ourselves in the present. If realization appears through the force of thoughts prior to realization, it might be an unreliable realization. Because it does not rely upon and it has come far transcending the time prior to realization, realization is assisted solely by the force of realization itself. Delusion, remember, is something that does not exist. Realization, remember, is something that does not exist. When the supreme state of Bodhi is a person, we call it Buddha. When Buddha is the supreme state of Bodhi, we call it the supreme state of Bodhi. If we fail to recognize the features of the moment of being in this truth, that might be stupid. Those features, namely, are untaintedness. Untaintedness does not mean forcibly endeavoring to be aimless and free of attachment or detachment, nor does it mean maintaining something other than one's aim. Actually, without being aimed at or attached to or detached from, untaintedness exists. But, for example, when we meet people, we fix in mind what their features are like, and when we see a flower or the moon, we think upon them an extra layer of light and colour. Again, we should recognize that just as it is inescapable for spring to be simply the spirit of spring itself, and for autumn likewise to be the beauty and ugliness of autumn itself, even if we try to be other than ourselves, we are ourselves. We should reflect also that even if we want to make these sounds of spring and autumn into ourself, they are beyond us. Neither have they piled up upon us, nor are they thoughts just existing in us. This means that we cannot see the 4 elements and 5 aggregates of the present as ourself, and we cannot trace them as someone else. Thus, the colours of the mind excited by a flower or the moon should not be seen as self at all, but we think of them as ourself. If we consider what is not ourself to be ourself, even that can be left as it is. But when we illuminate the state in which there is no possibility of either repellent colours or attracted ones being tainted, then action that naturally exists in the truth is the unconcealed original features. A man of old, its master Chosa Kaishin, said the whole earth is our own Dharma body, but it must not be hindered by a Dharma body. If it were hindered by a Dharma body, to move the body even slightly would be impossible. There should be a way of getting the body out. What is this way by which people get the body out? For those who fail to express this way of getting the body out, the life of the Dharma body ceases at once, and they are long sunk in the sea of suffering. If asked a question like this, what should we express? To let the Dharma body live, and so as not to sink into the sea of suffering. At such a time, we should express the whole earth is our own Dharma body. If this truth is present, the moment expressed as the whole earth is our own Dharma body is beyond expression. Moreover, when it is beyond expression, we should promptly notice the possibility of not expressing it. There is an expression of an eternal Buddha who did not express it. Namely, in death, there are instances of living. For example, a person on a battlefield establishes the will to the truth. In living, there are instances of being dead. For example, a person wastes time regretting something that has already happened. There are the dead who will always be dead. People lay to rest in cemeteries, etc. And there are the living who are constantly alive. People do not forcibly cause it to be so. The Dharma is like this. Therefore, when Buddhas turn the wheel of Dharma, they have light and they have sound like this. And we should recognize that in their manifesting the body to save the living, also they are like this. This state is called the wisdom of non-birth, or non-appearance. Expresses the ability which is both instantaneousness in the moment there is no appearance, and eternal reality has no beginning, no birth or beginning. Their manifesting the body to save the thing is their saving the living to manifest the body. When we behold their saving, we do not see a trace of manifestation, and when we watch them manifesting, they may be free of concern about salvation. We should consider, should preach, and should experience that in this saving, the Buddha Dharma is perfectly realized. We hear and we preach that both manifesting and the body are as one with saving. Here also the unity of manifesting the body to save the living makes it so. When Buddhas have substantiated this principle, from the morning of their attaining the truth to the evening of their nirvana, even if they have never preached a word, words of preaching have been let loose all around. An eternal Buddha said, we're still on Master Chosa Kaishin here, the whole earth is the real human body, the whole earth is the gate of liberation, the whole earth is the one eye of Vairocana, the whole earth is our own Dharma body. The eye of Vairakana is the Sun Buddha, a symbol of universal light. The point here is that the real is the real body. We should recognize that the whole earth is not our imagination. It is the body which is real. If someone asks us, why have I not noticed this so far? We should say, give me back my words that the whole earth is the real human body. A person who can understand the words intellectually does not deserve to have the words. Or we might say that the whole earth is the real human body. We know it like this. We know like this. Next, the whole earth is the gate of liberation, describes there being nothing at all to tangle with or embrace. The words, the whole earth, are familiar to time, to the years, to the mind, and to words. They are immediate, without any separation. We should call that which is limitless and boundless the whole earth. If we seek to enter this gate of liberation, or seek to pass through it, that will be utterly impossible. Why is it so? We should reflect on asking the question. Even if we hope to visit a place that does not exist, that is not feasible. Next, the whole earth is the one eye of Vairakana. Though Buddha is one eye, do not think that it must necessarily be like a person's eye. In people there are two eyes. But when speaking of our eye, capital E, we just say the human eye. We do not speak of two or three. When those who learn the teaching also speak of the Buddha's eye, the Dharma eye, the supernatural eye, and so on, we are not studying eyes, little e. To have understood them as if they were eyes is called unreliable. Now, we should just be informed that the Buddha's eye, capital E, is one, and in it the whole earth exists. There may be 1,000 eyes or 10,000 eyes. Alludes to the 1,000 eyes of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. But to begin with, the whole earth is one among them. There is no error in saying that it is one among so many at the same time. It is not mistaken to recognize that in the state of Buddha there is only one eye. Eyes may be of many kinds. There are instances of 3 being present. There are instances of 1,000 eyes being present, and there are instances of 84,000 being present. So the ears should not be surprised to hear that the eye is like this. Next, we must hear that the whole earth is our own Dharma body. To seek to know ourself is the inevitable will of the living. But those with eyes that see themselves are few. Buddhas alone know this state. Others, non-Buddhists and the like, vainly consider only what does not exist to be their self. What Buddhas call themselves is just the whole earth. In all instances, whether we know or do not know ourselves, there is no whole earth that is other than ourself. The matters of such times we should defer to people of yonder times. Yonder times. We should rely on traditional expressions of the truth. In ancient times, a monk asked a venerable patriarch, Master Chinshu Hojo, when 100,000 myriad circumstances converge all at once, what should I do? The venerable patriarch said, do not try to manage them. The meaning is, let what is coming come. In any event, do not stir. That's a lovely phrase. Let what is coming come. In any event, do not stir. I might put that on my wall. This is immediate Buddha Dharma. It is not about circumstances. These words should not be understood as an admonition. They should be understood as enlightenment in regard to reality. Even if we consider how to manage circumstances, they are beyond being managed. That is so true. An ancient Buddha said, mountains, rivers, and the earth and human beings are born together. The Buddhas of the three times and human beings have always practiced together. Thus, if we look at the mountains, rivers, and earth while one human being is being born, we do not see this human being now appearing through isolated superimposition upon mountains, rivers, and the earth that existed before this human being was born. Having said this, still the ancient words may not be devoid of further meaning. How should we understand them? Just because we have not understand them, we should not disregard them. We should resolve to understand them without fail. They are words that were actually preached, and so we should listen to them. Having listened to them, then we may be able to understand them. A way in which to understand them is as follows. Who is the person that has clarified, by investigating the birth from the side of this human being born, just what is, from beginning to end, this thing called birth? I got lost in that sentence. That's just a footnote that birth also means life. I'm going to read that again. A way in which to understand this is as follows. Who is the person that has clarified, by investigating this birth or life from the side of this human being born, just what is, from beginning to end, this thing called birth? We do not know the end or the beginning, but we have been born. Neither, indeed, do we know the limits of mountains, rivers, and the earth, but we see them here, and at this place it is as if they are walking. We had walking mountains in chapter 14, Sansuigyo. Do not complain that mountains, rivers, and the earth are not comparable with birth. Illuminate mountains, rivers, and the earth as they have been described, as utterly the same as being born. Again, the Buddhas of the three times have already, through their practice, accomplished the truth and perfected realization. How then are we to understand that this state of Buddha is the same as us? To begin with, we should understand the action of Buddha. The action of Buddha takes place in unison with the whole earth and takes place together with all human beings, all living beings, not just humans. If it does not include all, it is never the action of a Buddha. Therefore, from the establishment of the mind until the attainment of realization, both realization and practice are inevitably done together with the whole earth and together with all living beings. Some doubts may arise in regard to this. When we seek to clarify that which seems to be mixed into ideas that are unknowable, such doubting voices are heard, but we should not wonder whether the state of oneness is the situation of other people. This is a teaching to be understood. And so we should recognize that when we establish and practice the mind of the Buddhas of the three times, the principle is inevitably present that we do not let our own body and mind leak away. To have doubts about this is actually to disparage the Buddhas of the three times. If we quietly reflect on ourselves, the truth exists in the fact that our own body and mind has been practicing in the same manner as the Buddhas of the three times, and the truth is evident also that we have established the mind. If we reflect upon and illuminate the moment before and the moment behind this body and mind, the human being under investigation is not I and is not another person. In which case, as what stagnant object can we see it, and therefore consider it to be separated from the three times? All such thoughts do not belong to us. When the truth is being practiced by the original mind of the Buddhas of the three times, how is it possible for anything at all to hinder that moment? The truth, in short, should be called beyond knowing and not knowing. An ancient person said, this was Master Kokyo Shoju, even the crashing down of illusions is nothing different. Fluency is beyond discussion. Mountains, rivers, and the earth are just the total revelation of the Dharma King's body. Fluency describes the fluency of a Buddha's preaching of Dharma. Same words appear in the opening paragraph of Bendoa. When we speak of Dharma, it fills the mouth, it has no restriction. Oh, it says in any direction in Bendoa, but vertically or horizontally. People today also should learn in accordance with the saying of this person of ancient times. Mountains, rivers, and the earth already are the body of the King of Dharma. Therefore there existed a King of Dharma who understood that even the crashing down was nothing different. The idea is like the mountains being on the earth, and like the earth bearing the mountains. When we understood, the time when we did not understand does not return to impede understanding. That's good to know. At the same time, there is no case of understanding being able to destroy past non-understanding. Still, both in understanding and in non-understanding, there is the mind of spring and the voice of autumn. The reason we have not understood even them is that, although spring and autumn have been preaching at the top of their voices, those voices have not entered our ears. Our ears have been idly wandering inside the voices. I love that. Autumn and spring have been preaching at the top of their voices. It's like the nature is always there for people who bother to listen and pay attention. Understanding will take place when, with the voice already having entered the ears, samadhi becomes evident. We should not think, though, that this understanding is small, whereas the non-understanding was great. We should remember that because we are beyond matters that we have conceived privately, the Dharma King is like this. As to the meaning of the body of the Dharma King, the I, capital E, is like the body and the mind. Is like the body, and the mind may be equal to the body. It may be that both body and mind, without the slightest separation, are totally revealed. We understand that in the brightness of light and in the preaching of Dharma there exists, as described above, the body of the Dharma King. There is a saying from ancient times that none other than fish knows the mind of fish, and none other than birds can follow the traces of birds. Few people have been able to know this principle. Those who have interpreted only that human beings do not know the mind of fish and that human beings do not know the mind of birds have misconstrued the saying. The way to understand it is as follows. Fish, together with fish, always know each other's mind. They are never ignorant of each other, as human beings are. When they are going to swim upstream through the Dragon's Gate, set of rapids in the Yellow River, this is known to all, and together they make their mind one. The mind to get through the 9 rapids of Chikiang also is communicated in common, but none other than fish know this mind. Again, when birds are flying through the sky, walking creatures never imagine, even in a dream, the knowing of these tracks or the seeing of the following of these traces. Walking creatures do not know that such traces exist, and so there is no example of walking creatures imagining such traces. Birds, however, can see in many ways that hundreds of thousands of small birds have flocked together and flown away, or that these are the traces of big birds that have gone south or have flown north in so many lines. To birds, these traces are more evident than wheel tracks in a lane, or a horse's hoof prints visible in the grass. Birds see the traces of birds. This principle also applies to Buddhas. They suppose how many ages Buddhas have spent in practice, and they know small Buddhas and great Buddhas, even among those who have gone uncounted. These are things that when we are not Buddha, we never know at all. There might be someone who asks, why can I not know it? Because it is with the eye of Buddha that these traces can be seen, and those who are not Buddha are not equipped with the eye of Buddha. Buddhas are counted among those that count things without knowing. However, they are totally able to trace the tracks of the paths of Buddhas. If with our own eyes we can see these traces, we may be in the presence of Buddhas, and we may be able to compare their footprints. In the comparing, Buddha's traces are known, the length and depth of Buddha's traces are known, and although consideration of Buddha's trace, and through consideration of Buddha's traces, the illumination of our own traces is revealed. To realize these traces may be called the Buddha Dharma. That's an incredible paragraph. Shōbōgenzō Yui-Butsu-yo-Butsu. This was copied under the southern eaves of the guest quarters of Eiheiji Temple on Kichijōzan Mountain in Shibi Manor in the Yoshida district of Eshu, at the end of the last month in the spring of the 11th year of Koan, 1288, 35 years after Master Dōgen's death. What an incredible work this has been. Thanks for listening. Take care.